staring at TechCrunch. Martin Weatherby grins that insufferable grin, the one that makes him look like he invented the internet. The headline screams, "Visionary CEO takes cloud security firm public. The Martin Weatherby story." The photo's flawless lighting hides the truth. He hasn't debugged a line of code since 2016. His revolutionary vision was mostly caffeine-fueled rambling I turned into defensible IP. And it completely erases me. I'm Alan Whitestone. To new hires, I'm the quiet infrastructure guy who sends system update reminders. To the board, I'm overhead. But to Martin? I control 47% of the company he's trying to take public without my consent. He assumes I don't matter because I lack a Twitter following. He's about to learn silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Before I explain how I torpedoed a $900 million IPO with 3 manila folders and a patent attorney, understand this. It's not about hurt feelings or breakup drama. It's about contract law. And if you enjoy watching narcissistic CEOs face consequences, stick around. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. And let me know your thoughts on today's one in the comments. I read every message. Let's go back 7 years. We started in a cramped Austin apartment reeking of takeout and energy drinks. Martin was the showman, charming investors into funding vaporware with the energy of a motivational speaker crossed with a used car salesman. I was the builder, the one who read documentation, knew ideas mean nothing without execution, and insisted on airtight ownership. At 2 a.m., on a Craigslist couch, I typed our partnership agreement, not on a napkin, but with surgical precision. "We need clear separation," Martin said, pacing in a 2-day-old shirt. "Investors want one strong leader." "Then we eliminate confusion," I replied. "You handle press and pitches, I'll handle patents and infrastructure. You're okay being behind the scenes?" "I don't need recognition, Martin. I need security." So I drafted it. Martin got operational control. I kept veto power over core IP. Article 7, subsection D was crystal clear. No sale, merger, or IPO without my explicit consent. He signed with faded ink. "You really trust no one, do you?" "I trust documentation," I said. "Documents don't have selective memory." For 6 years, it worked. We scaled fast. Series A, Series B, 300 employees, soaring revenue. Martin bought a Porsche and a penthouse. I bought a modest house and kept working. I didn't mind being invisible, so long as the foundation held. But success corrodes trust like acid. Our "we" became I. I assumed our legal structure was unshakable. I was naive. Gratitude expires, and Martin's had spoiled. The fracture showed during Series C we were closing $60 million. Investor Elliott, a sharp, no-nonsense guy, asked for full ownership docs. I prepared them. 53% Martin, 47% me, veto rights intact. 3 hours before the meeting, Martin appeared in my office. "Elliott prefers the lone genius narrative," he said. "Can we list your stake as employee options just for the pitch? Misrepresenting ownership is fraud." But this was my co-founder, my friend. "Fine," I said, "but I need a signed acknowledgement of the real structure. Today." He agreed, relieved. We got the money. That compromise was the first crack. I thought I was protecting the company. Really, I just handed him the eraser. He left that meeting energized, clapping me on the shoulder with a pat that felt more like dismissal than thanks. "Couldn't have done it without you," he said. Then under his breath, "Well, not without your code, anyway." He didn't think I heard, but I catch everything. That night, I pulled the original partnership agreement from my fireproof safe. At my kitchen table, I reread Article 7, subsection D. In the event of acquisition, merger, or public offering, I traced the words. Something was off. We had funding, success, but the air had gone still, the quiet before a storm. I locked the document away and did something unusual. Exported my entire email history to an encrypted drive. Every thread, every bug fix thank you from 2017, instinct, paranoia, or just the dawning realization that the man on magazine covers wasn't the one I'd partnered with 7 years ago. The erasure had begun, and I was the only one who saw it. 4 months after Series C over lukewarm Thai food, Martin ended things. "We've drifted apart," he said, eyes scanning the door for someone more important. "It's suffocating. I need room to evolve." Evolve. Corporate jargon for "I'm done with you." I agreed. I was exhausted, tired of stabilizing his chaos. A professional-only relationship made sense. But Martin didn't want boundaries. He wanted me gone. The next week, my Monday leadership meeting vanished from my calendar. I walked to his office. His assistant, Lily, starstruck as ever, tried to stop me. "I'm a co-founder," I said. "I don't interrupt. I attend." Inside, Martin sat with new VPs. On the whiteboard, an org chart with no trace of my name. "Just blue sky thinking," he said, forcing a smile. "Didn't want to waste your time. I mind being excluded from decisions that affect my equity." He lowered his voice, hand on my shoulder, condescending. "It's just a draft for clarity. Nothing changes legally." Back at my desk, I logged in and found my admin rights revoked. Read-only access, locked out of strategy channels. Financials required his approval. This wasn't oversight. It was a lockout. I could have stormed in. But that's what he wanted. The unstable X narrative. So I went silent. Withdrew. Let them think I was retreating. Instead, I started a file. Breach documentation. Nov 3. Removed from exec comms. Screenshot attached. Nov 8. Denied financial data. Email saved. Nov 15. Martin claims sole credit in Forbes. Audio recorded. New hires didn't know me. In the break room, 2 junior engineers gushed about Martin building the platform alone. He dated some guy who just did docs and tried to steal credit. I turned slowly. Actually, I architected the security protocols that keep us from getting hacked daily. Martin built it in my living room and gave up 6 times on the encryption. I solved it while he played video games. They stared. I walked away, hands shaking, not from fear, but rage. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about history. I reopened the partnership agreement. If he wanted to play politics, I'd play law. I realized I couldn't wait for him to slip up. I had to let him feel invincible, so confident he'd make the fatal narcissist mistake. Overreach. He thought he was burying me. He forgot I'm patient. And patient. People win wars of attrition. December arrived cold and tense. The office buzzed with IPO prep, but to me, it felt like a funeral. Then, at 4:47 p.m. on a Friday, coward's timing, the restructuring memo landed. Subject, role clarification and equity alignment. From Martin Weatherby, CEO, to Alan Whitestone. Per our conversations regarding your preference for reduced operational involvement, we're transitioning your title from co-founder and chief technology officer to technical advisor. This better reflects your current engagement level. Your 47% equity will be reclassified as non-voting advisory shares to streamline our capitalization structure for the upcoming public offering. Please sign the attached acknowledgement by Monday. I stared at the email. Per our conversations regarding your preference. We'd never had such conversations. He was fabricating reality and asking me to validate his fiction. Reclassifying equity isn't something you can just do. You can't change the fundamental nature of ownership because it's inconvenient. I didn't sign it. Instead, I printed it and added it to my breach documentation. Then came the bonus announcement. Every year since the beginning, we'd taken 80,000 performance bonuses when we hit targets. We'd demolished our targets this year. Revenue up 280%. Martin called me into his office. He wasn't alone. The new CFO, a man named Derek who wore expensive sneakers and said disruption constantly, sat there too. Alan, Martin's smile was plastic. Outstanding year. Really impressive. We appreciate everything you've contributed to maintaining our infrastructure. Derek smirked slightly. I remained expressionless. We're making a strategic decision to reinvest all executive bonuses into the company this year, Martin continued, leaning back in his chair. Cash preservation is critical, right? We want to show investors we're disciplined. I assume this applies to you as well, Martin, I said. Of course, he replied, smoothly. I'm taking nothing. We're in this together. 3 weeks later, I'd discovered the expense report where he reimbursed himself $95,000 for business development, travel, and entertainment, including a week in Monaco. But I didn't know that yet. However, Martin continued, we want to celebrate the team's success. So instead of cash bonuses, we're throwing an amazing end-of-year party, a real morale builder. The amazing party happened 2 days later. In the office common area, he'd ordered 20 pizzas from a chain, pepperoni and cheese. The boxes sat stacked on tables, grease soaking through cardboard. There were coolers of cheap beer and generic soda. Listen up, everyone, Martin shouted, standing on a chair, holding a pizza slice and a beer. The entire company, 180 people, gathered around. They looked exhausted. They'd been working 70-hour weeks for equity that was being diluted steadily. This year was absolutely incredible, Martin yelled, and it's all because of you. He paused for effect. Some people laughed uncomfortably. I'm kidding. It's because of me, he grinned. Just kidding again. It's because of this team, you amazing people, the rock stars, the innovators. He rambled for 12 minutes, praising every department, sales, development, marketing. He never mentioned engineering infrastructure. He never mentioned me. Then came the punchline. And hey, I know some of you were expecting bonuses, Martin said, his voice dropping to mock confidential tones. Let me share something. Cash is temporary. Equity is forever. Real founders understand that. That's why Alan and I sacrificed our bonuses this year to buy you this feast. He gestured at the greasy pizza. Because we're investing in you. Founders sacrifice. People. The room applauded. They actually cheered him. They cheered the man who'd stolen their bonuses and bought them $4 pizzas. I stood in the back corner, holding a paper cup of flat soda. I watched him bask in the applause. He scanned the crowd and found my eyes. He winked. A smug, triumphant wink that said, see? I own them. I own the story. You are irrelevant. That wink was a critical mistake. Something inside me clicked into place, like a mechanism engaging. Look at the pizza, I thought. Look at the cheering employees. Look at Martin, the false prophet of the startup world. You want to play founder's sacrifice? Fine. Let's see who actually gets sacrificed. I put my cup in the trash. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out of the common area, down the hall, into the server room. I wasn't a systems administrator anymore, but I still had physical access. I needed to verify something. I logged into our repository using a backup administrative account I'd created 4 years ago for emergency purposes. Martin had revoked my main credentials, but he'd forgotten about the emergency protocol. He was always careless about details, always focused on appearances, never on infrastructure. I was still in. I navigated to the legal directory buried deep in our file structure. The folders only founders were supposed to access. I found the folder labeled IPO Preparation Documents. I opened it. Inside were drafts of the S-1 filing, our public offering registration statement. I scanned quickly. Founder and CEO, Martin Weatherby. Ownership, 100%. He'd actually done it, put it in writing. He was preparing to file documents with the Securities and Exchange Commission claiming complete ownership. He was going to take the company public and leave me with nothing but advisory shares and cheap pizza. A cold smile spread across my face. Not a happy smile. The smile of someone who just found exactly what they needed. If he'd kept me at 47%, he could have been worth $500 million, could have had everything, but he needed total credit, needed to be the sole genius. And in doing that, he'd just committed securities fraud on a server I had access to. I pulled a flash drive from my pocket. I copied the entire folder. Then I walked out of the building. The cold night air hit my face. I took a deep breath. It smelled like rain and exhaust. I pulled out my phone and called a number I hadn't dialed in 3 years. Hello? A rough, tired voice answered. Robert, I said. It's Alan Whitestone. I need a litigation attorney, not a friendly one. I need someone who specializes in corporate warfare. Alan, I haven't heard from you since the Series A. Is everything all right? No, Robert, everything is perfect. I'm about to destroy a unicorn. Robert connected me with a woman named Catherine. Catherine didn't work in a modern glass office. Her firm occupied an old building downtown that smelled like wood polish and old books. She was 63 years old, wore reading glasses on a chain, and had eyes that suggested she'd seen every form of corporate betrayal and found it predictable. "So," Catherine said, adjusting her glasses as she examined the stack of documents I'd brought, "he wants to go public and claim complete ownership." "That's correct," I said. "And you have this." She tapped a finger on the original partnership agreement, slightly yellowed and coffee-stained. "I do." Catherine spent 4 hours reading. She didn't speak, just turned pages. The only sounds were a ticking wall clock and rustling paper. I sat there, hands folded, watching her work. This was the diagnosis. She was determining if the patient was worth saving or if we were just harvesting assets. Finally, she stopped at page 17. "Here," she said, her voice gravelly. "Article 7, subsection D is strong, the veto authority over IP transfer. But have you examined Article 11, the remedy provisions?" "I wrote it," I said. "Then you know that if either party materially breaches the agreement, they have 45 days to cure after notification. If they fail, the aggrieved party can trigger accelerated vesting or dissolution." "Right. But look at the amendment you filed in year 3, the one related to patent assignments." I frowned. I remembered that amendment, done to satisfy a paranoid legal team from a potential partner who ultimately walked away. What about it?" Catherine read slowly. "In the event of material misrepresentation of ownership to external parties, specifically investors or regulatory bodies, the cure period is voided, and all IP assignments become voidable retroactively." She looked up at me, a hint of appreciation in her expression. "Retroactively," I whispered. "Yes. The way you phrased it, shall be deemed void ab initio, means that if he lies about ownership, the legal fiction is that the company never owned the intellectual property. It reverts to the original inventors, plural." My heart hammered. "I'm listed as primary inventor on all 9 core patents." "Exactly. If we can prove he lied to investors, which, based on this S1 draft he's about to do at the federal level, the company doesn't own its own technology. You do, and he does. And individuals. Jointly. Which means he cannot sell the company. The company is an empty container, a car with no engine." I sat back, the implication washing over me. It was the nuclear option. If we triggered this, the IPO wouldn't just fail. The company would collapse. The stock would be worthless. The employees, the ones cheering for pizza, would lose everything too. I hesitated. "The employees, they're innocent in this." Catherine looked at me over her glasses. "Collateral damage, Alan. Do you want justice or do you want to protect people who don't even know you exist? You can't have both, not when the infection is this deep." I thought about the pizza party, the restructuring memo, the wink. "He built this on my work," I said quietly. "If he wants to burn me, the whole structure burns." "Good," Catherine said. "Now we build the trap. We can't sue immediately. He'll settle quietly, offer you a payout, make it disappear. You want maximum impact. You let him walk. To the edge, you let him file that S1. You let him stand before the world and claim he's the genius. And then we push." The next 8 weeks were a masterclass in deception. By day, I was the compliant technical advisor. I came to the office. I smiled when Martin spoke to me. I signed the meaningless forms he sent. "Glad you're being reasonable about all this, Alan," he said one morning, stopping by my desk. He wore a new suit, clearly expensive. "The IPO roadshow starts next month. Exciting times." "I'm happy for you, Martin," I said, typing on my keyboard. I wasn't typing work. I was transcribing a recording of him telling investors that he'd handled the Allen situation cleanly. "Yeah, well, we'll take care of you financially once we're public," he said vaguely. "Maybe a nice severance package. You could travel. Take time to figure out your next move." "That sounds good," I said. "Great." He grinned. "See you at the top." By night, I was with Catherine, building the legal package. It was surgical. We compiled every email where I'd discussed the technology. We compiled the original patent assignments. We compiled the side letter he'd signed about the Series C presentation. We also found something else, a small detail, but lethal. The partnership agreement had a renewal clause. Every 7 years it had to be reaffirmed or it auto-renewed. The 7-year mark had passed 8 months ago. Martin hadn't reaffirmed, hadn't terminated, had ignored it entirely. "He thinks it expired," Catherine said one evening, pouring us both coffee. "He thinks the 7-year initial term means he's free." "But Article 14, I said, reciting from memory, "unless explicitly terminated in writing by both parties, this agreement automatically renews for successive 7-year periods." "He didn't read the fine print," Catherine said. "Arrogance is a spectacular weakness. We had him on contract law, on IP law, on securities fraud." But timing was critical. "The S1 filing is scheduled for Wednesday," I told Catherine. "He's doing the investor presentation, the roadshow kickoff at the Fairmont Hotel. Every major institutional investor will be there." "Is he presenting?" "Yes, the keynote. The vision behind the revolution." Catherine nodded. "That's our moment. When he publicly claims ownership, that's the trigger for the misrepresentation clause." "So we crash the party," I said. "No," Catherine smiled. "We let the party happen. And when everyone asks if there are any objections to this union, we stand up with evidence." I went home that night and lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I felt strangely calm. The anxiety had evaporated. There was only the steady rhythm of the plan unfolding. The trap was set, the bait was positioned, and the predator was hungry. The IPO publicity machine is loud and relentless. It consumes truth and produces hype. In the weeks before filing, the office transformed into a temple dedicated to Martin. Enormous posters of his face appeared in the lobby. Quotes from his blog posts were printed on the walls. "Innovation is refusing to accept limitations. Martin Weatherby." I wanted to add, "Theft is refusing to acknowledge contributors." The company website was redesigned. My biography page, already buried several clicks deep, was deleted entirely. The Our Story page was rewritten. It now described an inspiring journey of a singular visionary working alone in an apartment to change cybersecurity forever. My apartment. "I noticed the website update," I mentioned to Martin in passing. "Oh yeah," he said, not slowing down. "Marketing said a clean founder story tests better with investors. Single narrative. You understand?" "I understand," I said. Then came the Businessweek article. Headline: "The Last True Builder, How Martin Weatherby Coded His Way to Glory." The article described Martin as the Elon Musk of cloud security. It mentioned early collaborators who fell away as the vision crystallized. I was an early collaborator. Past tense, disposable. He started promising equity like candy. He held company meetings where he told the new executives that the IPO would make them all wealthy. "We're going to be the biggest tech IPO of the quarter," he shouted at one all-hands. "You're all going to be part of history." Meanwhile, I was given one final task. The compliance director, a nervous woman named Amanda who was terrified of Martin, asked me to review the executive disclosure forms for the S1. "Martin is too busy to review the legal language," Amanda apologized. "He said you could handle the standard compliance sections." "Happy to help," I said. I took the document, standard material, confirming no criminal history, no conflicts of interest, but there was a section on material adverse events. I added one sentence to the disclosure addendum, buried in paragraph 37, subsection B. The company acknowledges that any unresolved disputes regarding intellectual property ownership or founder equity constitute a material impediment to public offering. It was actually standard language. By signing the package containing this clause, I was getting Martin to legally acknowledge that an ownership dispute would invalidate the IPO. I sent the package via digital signature. Subject: Final Compliance Review. Urgent. Body: Standard disclosures, Martin. Need your signature to clear the S1 filing for Wednesday. He signed it in 4 minutes, didn't read it. Saw standard and urgent and clicked approve. Notification: document completed. I downloaded the signed copy, saved it to 4 different encrypted drives. That afternoon, I walked past the sales floor. The team was celebrating. They had a countdown displayed on monitors. Days until IPO 05. They were planning their purchases, discussing what they'd do with their stock gains. I felt a flash of sympathy. They believed the mythology. They didn't know they were on a sinking ship where the captain had already sold the lifeboats to buy better uniforms. I encountered Derek, the CFO, near the elevator. "Exciting week ahead, Alan," he said cheerfully. "You must be proud. Even with the reduced role, it's still partly your creation." "It is," I said, "very much my creation. And you know what they say about creators?" "What's that?" "They're protective of their work." Right, he laughed, checking his phone. "Hey, are you coming to the kickoff at the Fairmont on Wednesday? Martin wasn't sure if you'd be interested. Might be boring. Lots of investor talk." "Oh, I wouldn't miss it," I said. "I appreciate a well-executed presentation." "Great. I'll make sure you're on the list. Probably seating in the back. Better view of the whole room." "The back is perfect," I said. "I like seeing everything." I returned to my desk. I had one more call to make. I dialed the number of the one person Martin actually feared. Not a lawyer, an investor. The original investor. Elliot. He'd led our Series C. He was ruthless, but fair. He'd always asked me difficult technical questions during board meetings. Questions Martin couldn't answer. "Alan," Elliot answered immediately. "To what do I owe the pleasure? Calling to celebrate the upcoming liquidity event?" "Not exactly, Elliot," I said. "I'm calling as a courtesy, because you were the only investor who treated me like a professional." "Courtesy about what?" His voice sharpened instantly. "Don't buy the IPO allocation, Elliot, and if you have colleagues in the institutional round, tell them to examine the IP assignment documentation carefully." Silence. Long, heavy silence. "Alan," Elliot said slowly, "are you telling me there's a defect in the asset?" "I'm telling you there is no asset. Martin is selling something he doesn't own. If that's accurate, that's securities fraud." "I know," I said. "See you Wednesday." I hung up. The machine was running. The countdown was ticking. The gears were turning. Days until IPO EO3. Martin was in his office and was rehearsing his speech. I could see him through the glass, gesturing dramatically. He looked like royalty. I looked at my reflection in my computer screen. I looked like an executioner. The day before the roadshow kickoff, the office was chaotic. People rushed around with headsets and tablets. Caterers delivered trays for pre-celebration parties. The HVAC system struggled against the body heat of 180 anxious, almost millionaires. I found Martin on the outdoor terrace. He was smoking, something he only did when extremely stressed or extremely confident. Based on his tapping foot, it was both. "You don't smoke," I said, stepping outside into the smog. "Old habit," he exhaled. The smoke disappeared into the city haze. He didn't look at me. "Tomorrow's your moment," I said. "The culmination of everything." "Everything," he agreed. "The validation of years of work." "Martin, are you certain about the filing? Is the S1 completely accurate?" He finally looked at me, irritation crossing his face. "Jesus, Alan, not now. Legal reviewed it. Compliance reviewed it. You reviewed the disclosures. Why are you trying to create problems?" "I'm not creating problems. I'm asking if you're confident claiming complete ownership. You know that's not accurate." He laughed. A harsh, brittle sound. He dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his designer shoe. "It's accurate in every way that matters. I built this brand. I secured the funding. I led the vision. You were helpful early on, but you're an advisor now. You have shares. You'll profit. Why do you care about the narrative?" "It's not about narrative. It's about law. If you file that document tomorrow, you're committing perjury." "I'm giving you one chance, Martin. Amend the filing. List me as co-founder. Acknowledge the IP structure. We can still go public, but we do it honestly." He stepped closer, invading my space. He smelled like tobacco and breath mints. "Listen carefully. The story is set. The momentum is unstoppable. If you try to sabotage this because of your ego, I will destroy you legally. I'll sue you for tortious interference. I'll paint you as an unstable ex-partner who couldn't handle success. No one in this industry will touch you again. Do you understand me?" "I understand," I said quietly. "Good. Now go home. Rest. Get a decent shirt for tomorrow. Try to look supportive." He turned and walked back inside, sliding the glass door shut. He didn't look back. I stood there for a moment, watching the traffic below. He'd made his final decision. He'd chosen the lie over the truth. I pulled out my phone. I had a text from Elliot. "We need to talk, now. Meet me at the Reserve." The Reserve was an exclusive club for tech elite. Dark leather, expensive whiskey, and enough combined wealth in one room to fund a small nation. I met Elliot in a private booth. He was drinking scotch. He didn't look pleased. "I made calls," Elliot said, skipping pleasantries. "I pulled the patent records from the database. Your name is listed as primary inventor on every single core patent." "Yes," I said, "and I examined the cap table Martin circulated to the syndicate. Your name isn't anywhere near the ownership structure." "Correct." Elliot took a long drink. He looked at me with a mixture of respect and concern. "If you detonate this tomorrow, Alan, everyone loses. My fund loses. The employees lose. The market takes a hit." "If I don't detonate it," I said, "I lose everything. I lose my life's work. I lose my integrity. And you lose too, Elliot, because when the SEC investigates, and they will, they'll claw back everything, and you'll be named in the fraud lawsuit for inadequate due diligence." Elliot flinched. He knew I was right. "What do you want?" he asked. "I don't want money," I said. "I want truth. I want the record corrected, and I want control of my company back." "Your company?" "It was never his," I said. "He was the marketing. I was the product." Elliot studied me for a long moment. He nodded slowly. "The institutional buyers, the teams from Fidelity, Goldman, they'll be front row tomorrow. They ask questions during Q&A." "I know." "If a material question about ownership gets raised and the CEO can't answer satisfactorily, the underwriters will freeze the offering immediately." "That's correct," Elliot said. He pulled out his phone and typed a message. "I'm not going to stop you. In fact, I might have a question prepared." He showed me his screen. Draft email to other syndicate leaders. Subject: critical due diligence. IP ownership chain verification required. "Thank you, Elliot," I said. "Don't thank me," he said roughly. "I'm protecting my position. You're ruthless, you know that?" "I'm just a technical person," I smiled. "We're only ruthless when people don't read the documentation." I left the club and walked home. The city lights flickered on. Buildings glowed against the darkening sky. I went to my apartment. I laid out my outfit for tomorrow. A sharp navy suit, not casual. Armor. I called Catherine. "Is the package ready?" "Printed, bound, and notarized," Catherine's gravelly voice confirmed. "I have 6 copies, one for the SEC, one for the underwriters, one for Martin, one for you, one for the court, and one for the media. Bring them to the Fairmont at 8 a.m. I'll be there, wearing my courtroom suit." "It's not a courtroom, Catherine," I said, looking at the city lights. "No," she agreed. "It's better. It's a public execution." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room, watching dawn break over the bay. The sky transformed from black to deep purple to burning orange. It was IPO day, the day Martin became a billionaire, or the day the empire collapsed. The Fairmont ballroom smelled like expensive coffee and anxiety. At 8:30 a.m., it filled fast with suits, investment bankers in wool, VCs in branded fleece, analysts glued to tablets. Up front, a massive screen blared our logo and the word, "Revolutionary." I stood near the back by the coffee station in my navy suit, expression neutral, just another observer. Beside me, Catherine looked every bit the battle-tested litigator, her worn briefcase at her feet. "The vultures are gathering," she murmured, eyeing a huddle of Goldman Sachs bankers whispering over their phones. "Elliot sent his email." "Good, they're nervous. Bankers hate uncertainty." Martin was near the stage, flanked by Derek, Lily, and PR handlers. He looked manic, laughing too loud, eyes too bright. When he spotted me, his smile flickered. A tight nod, then he turned to fist bump a journalist. 8:47 a.m. The presentation started in 13 minutes. A ripple moved through the crowd. Frank, the silver-haired underwriter, checked his phone, frowned, and marched straight to Derek. Derek paled, shook his head, pointed at Martin. Frank didn't look convinced. "The whisper campaign's working," Catherine said. "Rumors aren't enough," I replied. "They need proof." "They'll get it." Derek rushed to Martin, whispered urgently. Martin's head snapped up, his eyes locked on mine. He pushed through the crowd, no longer the visionary, just cornered prey. "What did you do?" he hissed, forcing a smile for onlookers. "I'm just here to watch." Did you contact the underwriters? You removed me from those threads, remember? Before he could respond, the PA boomed. Please take your seats. We begin in 5 minutes. Martin glared. After this, you're signing a waiver, or else. Break a leg, Martin, I said. He stormed off, smoothing his hair, rebooting his confidence like an actor prepping for his final bow. I took my seat in the back row. Catherine placed the red folder on the table. Lights dimmed. Inspirational synth music swelled. A slick video played. Martin on a beach, Martin typing furiously, Martin gazing at whiteboards. One vision, one leader, one future. I felt sick. The erasure was total. Applause greeted him as he bounded on stage. From a cramped Austin apartment to this ballroom, he declared. Silence followed. He recovered quickly, launching into revenue stats. Charismatic, polished, utterly convincing, if you didn't know the truth. Then came slide 12. Intellectual property moat. Our platform is pure, owned innovation, Martin announced. No dependencies, no liabilities. That was the line. Frank stood, not during Q&A, mid-pitch. I received questions about patents 1 through 9. Are you the sole assignee? Martin laughed, a strained hollow sound. Of course. Clerical detail. Is there a co-inventor, an Alan Whitestone? Martin gripped the podium. He was a contractor, no legal claim. That's not what the patent office shows, Frank said, or your partnership agreement. Martin's eyes darted to me. I stood, smoothed my jacket, picked up the red folder. Actually, I said, voice clear across the silent room. I'm not a contractor, I'm the co-founder, and I built every system you're selling. I walked toward the stage. 40 seconds, just footsteps on hardwood. 200 heads turned. Martin looked like he might collapse. Security didn't move. You don't stop someone in a $500 suit holding legal documents. I stopped 15 feet from the stage, facing the bankers. Catherine hovered behind me like a shadow. Alan, Martin croaked into the mic, feedback screeching. We can discuss this privately. We're discussing it now, I said. You're asking for $180 million based on fraud. I handed Frank the folder. Inside, the original partnership agreement, Article 7, subsection D, the IP veto clause, and the misrepresentation amendment. He opened it, slipped on reading glasses. The other bankers leaned in, circling like sharks. What is this? Martin shouted, voice cracking. This is extortion. He's a disgruntled ex-partner trying to sabotage the company. Article 7, subsection D, Frank read aloud, emotionless. The technical partner retains veto authority over transfer of core IP assets. Did you disclose this in the S1? It's invalid, Martin yelled. The agreement expired. 7-year term. Article 14, Catherine cut in, gravelly and calm. Automatic renewal unless terminated in writing. Did you terminate it, Mr. Weatherby? Martin went pale. He didn't, I said. The agreement is active. I own 47% and absolute veto over this IPO. The room erupted. Whispers turned to shouts. Analysts typed furiously. This was the tech world's version of a wedding objection. But it gets better, I added. Martin just claimed sole ownership in front of investors. He triggered the misrepresentation clause. Frank flipped to the back of the folder. His eyes widened. The IP reverts, he whispered. Ab initio, void from the beginning. He closed the folder. We're withdrawing. Goldman Sachs is out. We can't underwrite an offering built on disputed assets. This IPO is terminated. What? Martin dropped the mic. It hit the floor with a thunderous boom. You can't do that. We already did, Frank said coldly, already packing up. Martin leapt off the stage, sweaty, wild-eyed. Why? You just cost yourself $40 million. The room fell silent. I didn't do it for the money, I said, locking eyes with him. I did it because you forgot the fundamental rule of engineering. What? Never build on a foundation of lies. It always collapses. I turned to Catherine. Serve him. She handed Martin a thick envelope. You are hereby served with a cease and desist for unauthorized use of Mr. Whitestone's patented technology and a lawsuit for breach of contract, securities fraud, and fiduciary duty. He held it like it was radioactive. Investors bolted. The screen still read revolutionary. It looked ridiculous now. I glanced at Derek, head in hands, and the employees in the back no longer cheering, just terrified. "I apologize," I said quietly, "but he stole this company from me. I'm simply reclaiming what's mine." I walked out, didn't look back. The shouting faded behind me, the sound of a billion-dollar dream imploding. Outside, the sun shone. My phone buzzed. Wall Street Journal. Breaking: Tech IPO halted amid founder ownership dispute and fraud allegations. I smiled, hailed a cab. "Nearest decent restaurant," I told the driver. "I'm buying myself breakfast, a real one." The company collapsed within 2 weeks. VCs liquidated everything. Martin was ousted in 4 days. The brand became toxic. The SEC investigation lasted 7 months. He settled, banned from public companies for 15 years, stripped of his Porsche, his condo, his credibility. Last I heard, he's in Miami posting comeback reels to 800 followers. I didn't get the $40 million. The stock vanished. But I got something better. The IP. All of it. The core technology is mine, on encrypted drives, legally reverted. Microsoft called, Amazon called, offers enough to retire on. I haven't sold. Instead, I started fresh. Fortress Protocol. Just me and 4 others. The 2 engineers from the break room, Amanda from compliance, turns out she's brilliant, and a security expert Martin once blocked. No glass walls, no posters, no staged photos. Our partnership agreement? 1 page. We tell the truth, we share credit, and nobody gets pizza instead of compensation. Sometimes I check Martin's feed late at night. He looks exhausted. Posts about betrayal and rising from ashes. Gets 200 views. I pour whiskey, bought with his defamation settlement, and watch. He still thinks he was the victim, that I destroyed him out of spite. He'll never understand. He wasn't undone by emotion. He was undone by documentation, by clauses he skimmed and promises he broke. People ask if it was worth it. Burning a unicorn, losing paper wealth, collapsing everything. I think of the restructuring memo, the pizza party, the wink. Then I look around my quiet office. I own the code, the patents, the name on the door. Most importantly, I own my integrity. Yes, it was worth it. So to every visionary CEO standing on stages built by erased collaborators, read your contracts. The person you're sidelining might hold the actual keys, and when they've had enough, charisma won't save you from the law. Real power doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs documentation. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.